Hey everybody, I'm back. Happy New Year. It's 2020, 20 years into this new century. I can remember when it turned 1980. Um, it's Brian Barron, Director of Skincare Research at Paula's Choice Skincare, coming at you with the first live chat of the new year. And today's topic is retinol. We're going to be talking about retinol, how to use it, what it does, who should use it, what strength is best, whether or not you can use it with other ingredients, and some of the myths that are out there. And of course, when we talk about myths, it's always about getting to the truth. So that is what we're going to be doing for the next um well, we're starting a bit late. What a shock. We had some technical difficulties that thankfully we're able to resolve, obviously, because I'm talking to you now. But um, it's been a while, and not a whole heck of a lot has happened as far as like nothing major has happened with me. You know, at least not for the worst. I'm older. Uh, I'm 46 now. I turned 46 on Christmas, so that was kind of a fun. I mean, not like that's a milestone birthday or anything, but as my husband reminded me, I'm officially in my mid 40s now. Like when I was 44, 45, I was kind of couching it, like hanging on to that. I'm still in my early 40s. But you know what? The older I get, and I know this might sound cliched, you really do start to realize that age and the number of candles on your birthday cake is just a number. And it's much more about how you feel, both physically and mentally and spiritually, adding on to that, and and everything you have to be thankful for. And I am incredibly thankful for a hell of a lot of things in my life, not the least of which is I'm going into my 20th year with Paula's Choice. And has that been a journey? Gave me a career I never could have imagined, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of you, and you're continuing to show up here when we do these chats and ask questions and support Paula's Choice. And by extension of that support, it lets us keep doing the things that we love to do. It lets us keep helping you both through our products and through our information, helping you sort through the often murky, often very misleading information out there, and really get to the bottom of what works and what doesn't. So send your retinol questions in. I see they're starting to gather in the column there. I do have a few though. I asked my colleague what types of questions we are asked about retinol the most, and that would be like on our various social media platforms, which is how a lot of you communicate with us these days: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, of course, Twitter. So let me give you a quick overview of retinol. I know this is sort of retinol 101, but just so I'm covering all the bases, retinol is the cosmetic and the technical name for the entire vitamin A molecule. There are offshoots of retinol, which are often referred to in cosmetic chemistry circles as retinol esters. Retinol palmitate would be one of them. There are different generations of retinoids, kind of spin-offs of retinol, if you will, such as retinaldehyde, retinol retinoate, hydroxypenocolone retinoate, I think is the full name. Those are sometimes referred to as third or fourth generation retinoids. They all have those retinoids, not the esters, but the ones I just mentioned, all have a molecular similarity to retinol and have similar, if not identical, functionality in when it's applied to skin. All such retinoids, including the prescription form, work on skin by breaking down into a type of acid called retinoic acid. And it is that acid that has the ability to tell skin cells. It's, retinol we call a cell communicating ingredient or a skin restoring ingredient. It talks to cells. There are receptor sites on skin cells within skin that retinol will literally attach to, kind of like a lock and key. And when it makes that attachment, it can start talking to that cell. It can kind of almost like a surveillance system of sorts. It can look at that cell and say, okay, I know what you're supposed to be doing, cell, and you're doing this correctly. You're not doing this so well. In fact, this process seems to be broken. Let me help you fix that. Now, depending on the type of communication that needs to happen, some amount of repair and successful communication can occur. Some amount, but there are limitations, is what I'm getting at. That retinol can only do so much depending on the extent of the damage, depending on what is going wrong with the skin, with the messages being sent. So retinol, when it is able to send out that healthy communication, it can influence skin in numerous ways. Retinol is really, it's one of the few superhero ingredients that has pretty much equal weight in terms of helping with the two biggest buckets of skincare concerns most people deal with at some point in their lives. One is signs of aging, wrinkles, loss of firmness, dullness, texture issues, mottled hyperpigmentation. Retinol even has a role in that. I think there are, in terms of dark spots, I think there are better ingredients to use to treat those, but for certain, retinol has a role in that treatment regimen. And acne, breakouts, clogged pores, problems in that regard. I mentioned a moment ago, 20 years going into my 20th year of being with Paula's Choice, and whenever we do surveys or just talking to our customers, talking to our fans, year after year after year, no matter where we are in the world, the two biggest concerns people have about their skin are wrinkles, wrinkles is kind of a catch-all term for pretty much all signs of aging, and breakouts. Acne and wrinkles, or some degree of acne, some degree of clogged pores. It can be a little interesting because there are a lot of adults, when they talk about their breakouts, technically what they are dealing with, whether they know it or not, is acne. But they don't call it that. It's almost like there's this mental block where the thinking around acne is that it only happens during the teen years, and therefore once you're past age 19, anything for the rest of your life can't be acne, it's just breakouts or clogged pores. Now, a lot of people have a mix of both, and retinol can help with both. Let me get to, I'm going to go down the list of those questions. Retinol does a lot of amazing things in the skin. It can influence several different processes and pathways and bring about the changes that many of us want to see. Again, there's a limitation. It's not going to make somebody who's 50 with extreme sun damage look like they are in their teens again, and it's not going to completely eliminate most cases of acne or clogged pores, but it certainly can help. So, according to my colleague, the questions we get the most about retinol products is how to incorporate it into your routine. So let's start off with that one. It depends on what step in your routine the base of the product is. So let's say a typical daytime routine, you're washing your face, you're using a leave-on exfoliant, at least if you're following the Paula's Choice daytime recommended routine, and then you would put on your treatment type product. Let's say you're using a serum with retinol. That's when it would go on. You would follow with your daytime moisturizer with sunscreen. It is perfectly fine. I know this is another question that came up, is what time of day to use retinol. There is mixed information in the research about the way sun exposure, UV light exposure, impacts the stability and the effectiveness of retinol. For certain, it does break retinol down. Light exposure, bad for retinol. However, the issue is pretty much a non-starter when it comes to skin, because as long as you are protecting your skin with a broad spectrum sunscreen every morning, which is the cornerstone of any great skincare routine, you don't need to worry about using a retinol product during the day. Personally, I keep my daytime skincare products, my topicals, to a minimum because I have oily areas, and I find that the more products I put on during the day, unless they're very thin textured, which I'll sometimes do, but generally I take a less is more approach in the morning and a more is more approach at night, and I will layer different products, and then if you have other treatment products in your routine, this is a corollary answer to the first question. It's okay to put on retinol before a hydroquinone product, before an azelaic acid product, or even after. You could, in terms of what gets put on first, at that point, it really comes down to the texture of the product. So if your retinol product is in a cream base, let's say you have dry skin, you're using a moisturizer with retinol, and then prior to that, you're using like a fluid booster product and maybe a skin lightening product that has a gel cream texture. The fluid product would go on first, then the product with the gel cream texture, and then finally your retinol cream. And then if this example routine we're talking about sounds very much like a nighttime routine, that could be your last step, or unless you use an eye cream or some sort of an eye area treatment at night. And facial products with retinol, assuming they're well formulated, they're fragrance free, they can be used around the eyes as well. You do not necessarily need a special separate eye cream or eye gel with retinol. There can be circumstances where that type of product is necessary, depending on how dry the skin around your eyes is, depending on what other treatment-oriented ingredients, I said it right, are in the eye cream. But generally speaking, it's fine to put a face retinol product around your eyes up to the orbital bone, and then it'll migrate a little further. So next question, explain percentages, the lowest you can use and the highest that's not a prescription. So when it comes to retinol is a cosmetic ingredient. It is not regulated. It's not an OTC drug ingredient. There really isn't, from the brand side, the cosmetic chemistry side, when products are being developed, there isn't there's not a concentration protocol for retinol in terms of this is too much, or for regulatory reasons you can't go past this. Now, that isn't necessarily true around the world. There are some restrictions on retinol in certain areas of the world depending on their individual regulations, and there's some that are pending. But generally speaking, I've seen retinol products that are claiming 2 to 3% retinol. That's a lot. And in fact, when we dig a little deeper and look beyond the surface claims and actually analyze the ingredient list, we will often find out that in all likelihood, it doesn't contain 2 to 3% pure retinol. The brand will often use a term like, super retinoid complex, which I'm not against marketing terms like that help differentiate a product, but they can be misleading when you're using a blend and claiming that as your percentage. So you could be using a 3% blend of this retinoid complex, but only 0.5% or 1% of that is pure retinol. The rest of it is composed of other ingredients. That to me is the misleading part. Paula's Choice does not do that. We tell you exactly how much retinol we put in our products, particularly when we use, for the higher strength retinol products that we have. We have 2 products with retinol at a 1% level. That is about the most we feel comfortable with. The reason for that, retinol is very potent. So 1% doesn't sound like a lot. If you eat 1% of a bag of potato chips, you're doing pretty good. You've got a lot of willpower there. But 1% retinol is actually quite potent. And in terms of finding out how much you can use and how much your skin tolerates, how well your skin acclimates to different percentages, what a lot of people like to do when they first start using retinol is they engage in a sort of step-up process where they begin with the lower strength of retinol. In terms of what the research says regarding the minimum amount to get in order to see results, it hovers right around 0.01%. Again, really low percentage. It does not take, it's just like peptides. Peptides, you can get efficacy from many different peptides in amounts at that level or even a bit lower than that. It's kind of shocking, but true. So 0.01%, maybe 0.01% to 0.03%, I would consider an introductory retinol product. That if you're new to vitamin A or you have extra sensitive skin and maybe a little nervous about using retinol, that is where I would recommend starting. Then you could work up to what I would consider more kind of the tail end of a beginner strength and the first step in a moderate strength retinol product, which would be about 0.1% retinol. And then from there, you could go between 0.3 and 0.5%. See how your skin does. Some people, I'm one of them, like alternating between a lower strength and a moderate strength. And then I'll occasionally, I know I've mentioned this before, I do use our 1% retinol booster at least 2 or 3 times a week. And that cadence for me gives me the results I want and no adverse effects, no signs of irritation. So from that moderate strength, really we consider anything above 0.5% to be high strength retinol. 1% is kind of the top out amount. Why does Paula's Choice not offer more than 1% for those retinol diehards that are just like, yeah, bring it on, I can take it? Reason is, there just isn't research there to support the higher amount being that much better. Interestingly, I came across a study or a report about different types of vitamin C, including ascorbic acid, and it seems that higher amounts of vitamin C, ascorbic acid, above 20%, about 20% is the most that skin can take on. It's like when you go too much above that, like we have the 25% product, skin doesn't really register that. Isn't that interesting? There's some nuances to that I don't necessarily think are apples to apples with our product, because part of the discussion on why that happens in skin with ascorbic acid had to do with products that are formulated between a very specific pH range. This would be a water-based product where the ascorbic acid is kept at a much more acidic pH, whereas in the case of our C25 product, that is a non-aqueous product. It does not have a pH. It's literally an ascorbic acid pure powder suspended in a silky silicone cream. So again, but I still thought that was interesting. It's almost like this in a liquid medium. If you go above 20%, the skin's just like, don't need it. Thanks anyway. So, all right, percentages, lowest you can use, highest you can use. Paula's Choice does not offer above a 1%, at least not at this time. Never say never. But I honestly don't think we go much higher than that. But we offer several products with bioactive ingredients, and a lot of you like using more than one such product because most of us have multiple concerns, and no ingredient, no matter how great it is, can do everything. I wish that was the case, much like I wish there was like 3 foods that I just, I could only eat 3 foods that I love, make meal planning very simple, and those 3 foods would give me all the nutrients I needed to be healthy throughout my life. It just isn't possible. If you do experience sensitivity with retinol, what to do about it? This is a bit of this isn't a simple, fast answer, because it's going to depend on whether your skin is just acclimating to retinol or whether or not you are having like an allergic reaction in the sense of you are just someone, and this does affect a small percentage of people, like many other cosmetic ingredients. Some people can't use retinol in any strength, in any texture, in any degree of frequency. So the name of the game here when you experience sensitivity and what to do about it is experimentation. Whether or not you discontinue using the retinol product that you believe triggered the reaction is going to depend on the severity of the reaction. If the sensitivity is of the mild variety. Maybe you're seeing some flaking, maybe you're seeing a little bit of diffuse redness, maybe your skin feels more tender to the touch. Um, that is something where I would say, okay, uh, rather than stopping the retinol altogether, take a break. If you've been using it every day or twice a day, scale back to once every other day, morning or evening, your choice, to experiment to see which method, time of day you prefer in terms of what else you're using and how they work together, how they layer. If it is a more stronger reaction, like a rashy type itchy reaction, or you notice you get this fresh crop of bumps, it kind of maybe you're on day 3 of using a retinol product and you see all that happening, then I would say, okay, just stop using retinol altogether. Don't worry at this point about experimenting with lower strengths. Take soothing protective measures for your skin. Apply a 1% hydrocortisone type product, maybe followed by an extra soothing but rather bland fragrance-free moisturizer. Bland meaning just a handful of ingredients, and then gradually work up to something more sophisticated. In those cases, if you have very dry skin, or if you have normal to dry skin and you feel that your reaction to retinol has made your skin even more dry and uncomfortable, I'm not opposed to using a product like CeraVe's Healing Ointment, which I think is a great, it's very heavy duty, but it's very soothing and protective, and the ceramides help restore and replenish a barrier that's been compromised by retinol and showing some signs of irritation. Before I get to one more question here, and maybe I'm answering some that have been posed, but the myth about what you can and can't use with retinol. There we go. You can use pretty much any ingredient with cosmetic retinol. There really aren't any stipulations. It does not interact negatively with vitamin C. We'll sometimes see that recommendation on a blog post or a fashion magazine, and rarely is there any explanation as to why that is. So here's the thing. The human body can't make vitamin C on its own. It's one of the nutrients we have to get via our diet or supplements. Vitamin C does make it to skin. In fact, the vitamin C from what we eat, from what we intake from other non-food sources, i.e., your Flintstones daily vitamin, there is a reservoir that's set up in the skin, and vitamin C is considered one of the skin's endogenous antioxidants. It naturally occurs in the skin via our diet. So you've got vitamin C in your skin. It's helping to protect your skin from environmental damage. Of course, it doesn't take the place of sunscreen. And interestingly, the older we get, the more our skin's natural supply of antioxidants starts dwindling. The body doesn't become as efficient at making more of those antioxidants. There's a number of other ones besides vitamin C, particularly antioxidant enzymes, which coincidentally work really well with vitamin C. But I digress. If vitamin C deactivated retinol, which is the usual claim, then it wouldn't work, given that you have vitamin C in your skin, unless you are that very small percentage of people that are nutrient deficient in vitamin C and would develop other health issues as a result of that. Everyone else should have enough vitamin C in their skin that if it made retinol ineffective, you would not see any results from retinol. Yet we know from 50 plus years of research that retinol can be highly efficacious for numerous skin types, skin concerns, and at various stages of life. So same thing with niacinamide. It works really well. There is complementary research showing that those types of ingredients actually help each other to work better. Vitamin E, for example, can help to stabilize retinol, so can vitamin C. Interestingly, another ingredient that can help stabilize retinol and to quite an impressive degree is bakuchiol. So that plant ingredient that is often touted as an alternative to retinol, turns out if you are not sensitive to retinol, there's really no reason why you can't use retinol and bakuchiol together. They have some complementary benefits, and then both retinol and bakuchiol have distinctive benefits. An interesting benefit of bakuchiol, where it edges out retinol, is that it's a very potent antioxidant. Retinol has antioxidant properties too, but it is a more unstable and fragile ingredient compared with bakuchiol. So it has that edge there. Bakuchiol also has some anti-inflammatory properties that retinol has as well, or that retinol lacks. In fact, I wanted to mention this. I was doing some digging into the research in terms of coming up with a more technical explanation as to why some people experience sensitivity to retinol and how that happens. And essentially what happens is that retinol temporarily upregulates some inflammatory markers in skin known as cytokines. Now, the studies looking at this they were looking at a higher concentration of retinol, around 2%, which is a lot. However, they were theorizing that it happens with lower concentrations as well, just to a lesser degree. It is temporary. It is part of how skin acclimates to retinol, and it won't happen with everyone because some people, depending on the composition of their skin, and some people have more of protective substances, thicker barriers, more anti-inflammatory ingredients going on in their skin than other people do. It's one of the theories behind rosacea being about the person's barrier actually being thinner than those people who don't have rosacea. So if you think of your skin's barrier like layers of an onion, the people that don't have rosacea have that thicker outer skin that you need to peel off before you start dicing the onion. When you have rosacea, you maybe have like a thin membrane, that last layer that you'd peel off before you can finally start chopping the onion. And that's a pretty big difference, because think of how those outer layers of the onion, like when you see them in the grocery store before you start peeling, how they really help to protect the onion from external stressors. Little analogy there. But the other thing that this study showed is that there are plant-based ingredients, anti-irritants like allantoin, licorice root. What else did they mention? I think they mentioned glycyrrhetinic acid, which is one of the active components in licorice root. And there are others as well. But they can help offset that. And I was happy to read that because the formulary approach we've taken with our retinol products is to always pair the retinol with a good amount of soothing ingredients to offset what we know is a temporary issue. It can manifest itself in different ways, again, depending on how your skin responds to retinol. Interesting, huh? Okay, take one more slug of water here and get to the questions. All right, we've got people saying hi, we've got people saying yay, and Leah says Happy New Year. Sophia is still trying to figure out her sensitive dry skin. Okay, that can be a process, definitely. One Riesling one says, hi Brian, what are your thoughts on Curology? I'm considering to order their tretinoin prescription. I'm not too familiar with that brand. I've heard the name, so I guess let's just say that's the extent of my familiarity. Tretinoin is a drug ingredient. It is the strongest form of vitamin A you can get topically. I mean, there are others, I suppose, of equal strength, like tazarotene. Adapalene, which is different, I would put down at a lower intensity, so to speak. And then isotretinoin, which is oral vitamin A, that would be the strongest, but we're talking topical here. So in terms of tretinoin, because it is regulated as a drug, it's less about the brand and more about the base it's in and whether or not that's going to be compatible with your skin. The active ingredient, though, as long as you're looking at the right percentage for you, and if you're new to tretinoin, I'd start with the lowest percentage and then see how you respond. You can always go through a tube of the lower percentage and then work up if they offer a stronger amount. Typically 0.01, I believe, is the starting point for tretinoin, but there may even be like a 0.005%, depending on the manufacturer. It's sort of like buying over-the-counter pain medication, and that if the label, if you're at Walmart and you're looking at the Walmart brand of ibuprofen, it says 200 milligrams, it's 200 milligrams, it's ibuprofen, and it's the same ibuprofen that goes into brand name Advil. So what really counts is the dosage, not so much who's offering it. Of course, you want to look for a reputable company, but in the prescription realm, find out about the percentage and what's best for you, and then find out, if you can, what texture the product is in. Some companies offer tretinoin creams, some offer different textures such as lotions and gels. For any gels or liquids, because pharmaceutical bases for skincare products, skincare prescriptions, tend to be very basic. If you're looking at a liquid or a gel type tretinoin product, make sure it does not contain denatured, or SD, which stands for specially denatured alcohol. It's not what you want. Tretinoin can be irritant for quite a few people as is. There's definitely more of an adjustment phase with that. I'm someone that cannot use tretinoin. Interestingly, just to add on to what I mentioned earlier about the pro-inflammatory cytokines that get released into skin after you put retinol on. Again, it's an acclimation phase, but it's actually a byproduct of what happens when retinol starts to break down into retinoic acid. And then over time, as skin acclimates, it gets used to that. And so retinol essentially works with other factors in skin to send a message to say, okay, this is not an enemy. We don't need these inflammatory markers popping up now. I know what I'm dealing with, and this is cool. This guy is supposed to be here. Choose your own adage there. Let's get back to questions. Leah, this is a good question. She says, I don't know what age to start using retinol. There isn't really a general guideline here. Do I think little kids need retinol? Probably not. I think, though, if you start dealing with breakouts in the preteen to teen years, adding a retinol product of some ilk can be fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It is absolutely not true that if you start using retinol when you're younger, it won't work when you are older and dealing with more signs of aging, ergo you really need it then. It doesn't work that way. Your skin doesn't get used to retinol any more than your body gets used to the nutrients in healthy foods. Blueberries are good for you at age 19. Blueberries are going to be good for you at age 50, 75, and so on. They don't stop being nutritious for you. If you are in your young adult years and you're not necessarily seeing signs of aging yet, maybe just some fine lines or mild skin tone issues, or you have the occasional breakout, I would say, there's nothing wrong. I wouldn't necessarily say someone in that situation needs retinol. However, if you want to begin using a lower strength of retinol to help repair some of those earlier signs that you're seeing and prevent those from progressing, which it would have a role in helping. It's not going to entirely prevent it, but it certainly can help, and there's no reason not to try it. Just go for a lower strength, see how your skin responds, move up from there if you want to, and you may in fact want to as you get older and you start seeing more issues pop up with your skin. Again, because retinol, obviously, it can't prevent everything, but it will help. Let's see. Happy New Year. I apparently look delicious. That's nice to hear. I'm not having the best hair day. Karina Allen from Romania says, Happy New Year. You look great, Brian. I wish you all the best and looking forward to every chat you do. I now have it in my calendar to watch it every time. Well, we are going to be on a regular schedule. I know I was off for most of December and holidays, but yeah, I think we're going to pick up the weekly cadence again. Let's see. Moore says, how can I use azelaic acid in retinol and BHA and AHA? I just found out that I have rosacea and I want to try azelaic acid. So with azelaic acid, It works in a different, there's a different mechanism of action. However, azelaic acid, like salicylic acid and glycolic acid, is keratolytic, which means it helps shed dead skin cells, helps exfoliate. So, with rosacea, I generally don't recommend alpha hydroxy acid. They tend to be more sensitizing for people with rosacea. That may not be true for you. So, the umbrella recommendation of experiment and see what works best certainly applies. But generally speaking, BHA is preferred for rosacea because it has those inherent anti-inflammatory properties, and much like acne, there is an inflammatory component underneath, underlying rosacea. So, in terms of your routine, you need to be careful about retinol with rosacea as well in terms of strength. It is not that it's not that retinol is forbidden when you have rosacea. Indeed, a lot of people get good results from using it, but I would just be more cautious and go with the lower strength until you see how it works for your skin. What I would suggest in this combination is using your exfoliant once per day, morning or evening, and then applying the azelaic acid product and the retinol product separately. Again, morning or evening, depending on what else is going on in your routine and how the textures of those other products in your routine play together. See how that does. I think you can drop the AHA and not be missing anything. And let's go from there. And obviously for sunscreen, which is even more important when you've got rosacea going on, the mineral sunscreens with titanium dioxide and zinc oxide are considered their preferred options because they are so gentle. They're the least likely to sting. And you absolutely need sunscreen with rosacea because that UV light exposure incites more inflammation in the skin, and it can make the redness and the broken capillaries that are the visible symptoms of rosacea more pronounced. It can exacerbate them. Okay, Karina wants to ask, what is my opinion on retinol 1% stability on a tube like a toothpaste? Is that going to be stable? I know how well designed is PC 1% retinol pump, but I see many popular 1% in a tube. If it is a laminate type tube, kind of like what we used for our hydroquinone products or what we use for the Pure Radiance skin brightening treatment and Resist, I think that would be fine. A classic toothpaste type tube, though, what I think you're referring to is a metal tube that as the product is dispensed, you can kind of fold it up at the bottom. As long as you're doing that, those metal tubes, they generally, the fill weight and the tube size are generally very, very close. They're very within spec. So when you are dealing with a cream in that type of a tube, it is very difficult for air, which is retinol's enemy, to get pulled back into the tube. So I think that can be one of the more stable ways to package a higher strength retinol product. It is not one of the more elegant ways to do it. Those types of tubes, after a while, they start getting all crinkly and stuff, and they're hard to stand up, and they just don't look good on your bathroom counter. So if you're into that type of, worry, I wouldn't go for that type of packaging. But in terms of stability, if that's the litmus test, that's fine. Let's see. We're going to go a little longer because we started a little later, but unfortunately I can't go too much later because I have plans this evening and it's getting a little late here. But I'm going to keep going. We're going to go into the retinol lightning round. Okay. R3 asks, how long does it take to heal my acne with Paula's Choice products? It's getting much better, but since some month I don't see change anymore. You can't heal your acne in terms of like making it go away completely. There are no skincare products that can do that in terms of eliminating acne. It's gone. Therefore, you don't need the acne products anymore. It's really about maintenance. Anti-acne skincare products can do a lot. Believe me, they can do a lot. And I think The clear products we offer are some of the best on the market for anyone dealing with acne, including the ancillary products like the SPF because it's so lightweight, and the oil-free moisturizer, even the mask, if you like clay masks, is phenomenal for acne and the redness that accompanies it. What might be happening is that you have reached a plateau with the over-the-counter products that you're using. It's about as good as it's going to get. And what do you do then? That is the point when you want to talk to your dermatologist or your physician and say, here's my over-the-counter routine for acne. It's helped, but I think I'm at a plateau. I think it's about as good as it's going to get with skincare. I need to weave in a prescription topical product, or you could even talk to a healthcare provider about oral medications to help control acne. If it is really persistent or more stubborn, or you have some cystic lesions, you may want to ask your doctor to do a blood test to check hormone levels. There is a hormonal component to every type of acne, but for some people, the hormonal balance can be off, and there are different medications, depending on your gender, that you can take to help get those back into balance, and therefore you should see a pretty good reduction in acne as a result of that. That whole component there, that is not the purview of skincare. So that may be why you've gotten to a point with your OTC skincare where you're still seeing breakouts. They're not as bad as they used to, but your acne isn't as gone as you'd like it to be. All right. Amy says, hi, Brian. It's great to see you. I miss the old PC days and the old-timey live calls with you, Paula and Desiree. Oh, those were fun. Yeah, those were fun. Brendan says, happy New Year to you and your family, Brian. Random question. Is it bad to wash my face and toner after sweating at the gym, but before an event, knowing that in 3 hours I'll be doing the same? No, nothing. As long as you're using a gentle cleanser, and you know, after you wash your face, it's not feeling dry and tight and uncomfortable, and you're using a great replenishing toner. You're giving back to skin what cleansers take away. Even the gentlest cleansers are going to take something away from skin that ideally should stay there. You know what I mean? Some of those intercellular matrix substances, you know, glycerin, hyaluronic acid, a well-formulated toner can quickly give those back to skin. So I think that's totally fine. The other thing you could do, if you want to, Brendan, if you're, what you mentioned going to the gym, if you're showering after your workout, just rinse your face with water to get the sweat off, and then follow with the toner, because for example, all of our toners have a little bit of cleansing ability as well. It's just that the ingredients that do the cleansing are perfectly safe to leave on the skin. Valerie says, hi, Brian, which would be better for slightly oily skin, and I don't want to suck up all the oil, just clean my face and maintain moisture? Resist perfectly balanced or resist optimal results? Ooh. Optimal results. I would give that one the edge. It is a really unique, very gentle lotion style cleanser that is water rinsable and leaves your skin soft but not filmy. I think that would be a great one for you to try. Veronica says, I'm her favorite skincare expert. Thank you very much. You know, it's so funny, even after all this time, I should consider myself an expert. I mean, if I'm an expert in anything, it's going to be this, you know, just based on how much time I spend on it. But I'm always learning. And I'm also not afraid to admit that I was wrong about something, or when research changes and it impacts how I look at something, and often trickles down to how we as a company look at skincare and how to treat it, or how to address a skin concern in a new way. So I humbly accept your compliment, or I thank you for your compliment. That's very sweet to say. But I just, you know, I never feel like I know enough. And I guess when I hear the term expert, this is just me, I automatically think expert is somebody who knows everything. And I do not. I know a lot, but yeah, realistically, because there's always more to know, you can never know everything. So I guess the term expert is open to interpretation. That's mine. Um, let's see. Veronica says, can you tell us what we need to use for hyaluronic acid, and does it go through all the layers of skin? There's a lot of different products with hyaluronic acid. I mean, within our line, the Calm Repairing Serum is a great choice if you want pure hyaluronic acid. Of course, the hyaluronic acid booster. We use sodium hyaluronate in many of our moisturizers, toners, serums. Hyaluronic acid in its pure state is a large molecule. That's often referred to as high molecular weight hyaluronic acid. That isn't getting much past the very superficial uppermost layers of skin. However, it can certainly do good there in terms of hydration, in terms of sending some signals to the lower layers of skin, in terms of helping to prevent water loss. There are different smaller molecular weights where the larger hyaluronic acid molecule is manipulated to be like a medium or a low weight hyaluronic acid, or it's blended with other ingredients to create a polymer system that is more easily assimilated deeper into the skin. We tend to use the different weights because we want you to get the benefit of hyaluronic acid or sodium hyaluronate. Ironically, even though hyaluronic acid is the one that gets all the press in terms of plumping and wrinkle smoothing and being used for dermal fillers, sodium hyaluronate, which is the less expensive form too, is more bioavailable. It has more of an affinity for skin. So there's that. We like using them both. We use them at different molecular weights to ensure that you are getting the benefits of these ingredients at different levels of your skin. All right, let's do a few more. There is the clear, yeah, the clear SPF. There was some our daytime moisturizer with SPF, which has SPF 30 in the clear line, is the Resist Youth Extending with SPF 50. They are the same formula. It actually does have SPF 50. We opted to go for SPF 30 with the clear product. When you have your SPF testing done and you get that SPF rating, you cannot list your product as being any higher than that SPF rating, in this case 50, but you can choose to make the SPF rating lower. We did that with Clear because there was some concern among people we spoke with that are struggling with acne that they perceive higher SPF products as being more likely to cause or trigger breakouts. And we didn't want them to not consider the Clear product. We knew that it was brilliant for breakout prone skin. We know, not past tense. It's brilliant for breakout prone skin because it's such a thin, fluidy lotion texture, beautiful application. It doesn't feel greasy. It's super light. So we didn't want people with acne to worry, and so we opted to label that as SPF 30 because it's hard enough getting somebody with acne to wear a sunscreen. There's still a lot of misinformation out there in terms of getting a tan and how that helps acne. It doesn't, or how that dries up. The sun dries up acne as if acne is about skin being wet. I still don't understand that one, but for certain, even though if you're really white like me and you get a tan, your acne is going to look less apparent, but it's not going to, because the sun damage causes deeper inflammation in skin. You're really only compounding the problem and actually making the risk of acne scarring, or what I mean is the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. You risk making that worse, and then those marks will hang around longer, which nobody wants. Okay, let's see here. Sharon says, is it okay to use the recovery line, also night cream, and then in combination with the Omega night cream? Absolutely. Yes. We have our collections of products, those complete routines, to make it easier for people who want to shop quickly and just say, okay, so we have these pre-selected routines that are great. However, if you find that you like a product from outside of that line, or you want to experiment, you want to use some skin balancing and some skin recovery and maybe the Omega eye cream, Great. There's nothing wrong with cross-pollinating between the sub-brands within Paula's Choice. You do not have to stay, within the lines, so to speak, and only, if you've got dry skin and you're not concerned about uh, repairing signs of aging, only skin recovery, no resist or no boosters. No, feel free to customize. And if you need help with that, contact our client services team. That's what they're there for. By the way, if you guys don't know, if you're struggling with your Paula's Choice routine or wondering about new products, you can book a 20-minute skincare consultation with any of our client services reps. It is, you get their undivided attention for a full 20 minutes. You can go over your routine, what you're using, how it's working, what you like and don't like, and they'll help you fine tune. They'll help you get your routine to where you need it to be. So by all means, book that. Mia wants to know what my non-negotiable product is, Paula's Choice or not. There is, as much as I love and cling steadfastly to Paula's Choice for 95% of my routine, my non-negotiable, because of its importance in the routine, is sunscreen. That is the one product from Paula's Choice that I don't use. I use a sunscreen from SkinCeuticals. It is strictly about personal preference and texture preferences. There are some sunscreens in our line that I absolutely love in terms of how they feel, but I don't necessarily like how they look, and vice versa. But from a protection standpoint, of course, I mean, it's not. I'm not using somebody else's sunscreen because I don't think ours provide good enough protection. It's strictly personal preference. But because that's such a cornerstone product in any great skincare routine, that would have to be my non-negotiable. And if SkinCeuticals ever discontinues that product, I will cry. All right, a couple more here. Abby, Paula says she can't tolerate retinol. How do you know if you can't tolerate it versus just having a hard time getting used to the flaky peeling stage? I've been trying retinoids for years without success, with no success. So what Paula notices, Abby, is because Paula will occasionally dip her toe, or her face rather, back into retinol products to see if she's to the point now, because skin isn't static, it changes with time. Maybe now she can tolerate retinol. And what tends to happen, last I spoke with her, is that she has a few good days with it, where she thinks everything is great, and then she starts getting more of an adverse reaction to it. She'll get some redness and she'll get some peeling. Retinol has a long half-life in skin. So when you're using a great retinol product, this is why it isn't necessary for everyone who's using a retinol product to use it every single day. No exceptions. Perfectly fine to kind of hop around. Maybe you use a retinol 3 times per week, and then on those other nights you're using a different type of treatment product, based on what your concerns are. So, but the whole issue of the retinol and the longer half-life in skin is why some people, particularly when they're using higher strength retinol products, will say that for the first few days, everything was fine and my skin looked great. And then I got to day 5 and boom, I start seeing all these issues that I attribute to retinol. And it's because your skin is taking on too much of it at once. It's not done with what you gave it on day 1, 2, and 3, and it kind of just keeps accumulating. Remember, vitamin A is a fat-soluble vitamin. It sticks around a little longer. And there's fats in skin that it, hooks up with. But that is a great reason. If that describes you, then that you can start using that product less often. It doesn't have to mean that you can't ever use it. However, Abby, based on your history, if you have experimented with different strengths of retinol products, different textures, different formats, and you tend to get the exact same result every time, maybe not always at the same time, but there's a pattern, I would say that you're someone that just can't tolerate retinol. And I know it's, given the number of wonderful things it does for skin, it is unfortunate, but there are a lot of other ingredients that you can consider instead that have very, very impressive results. I would say, although they don't necessarily work the same as retinol, the visible results can be equally impressive. So that's great. Various peptides you could look at. Try our peptide booster. Oh my God, love that product. You could also consider a product, if you haven't already, with bakuchiol. It's not a retinol alternative in the sense that it works exactly like retinol, but it does do many of the same things in skin. It can upregulate some of the same genes in skin that retinol impacts. It just does so via different pathways. For example, I mentioned at the top of the show that skin has receptor sites for retinol. Skin does not have receptor sites for bakuchiol. However, we do have good evidence that bakuchiol is an effective ingredient that can deliver some of the same benefits as retinol. Whether or not it does so without causing sensitivity, though, really is going to depend on how your skin responds to bakuchiol. It's a plant extract. Plants have a lot of things going on. You could always be sensitive to one or more of those substances, and you won't know until you experiment and see. Try the Inky List. They have a good bakuchiol product that's like a $10 investment, so if it doesn't work out, it's not such a huge loss. Okay, one more question. All right. Let me pick, let's see. Let's try to end with a retinol question. Here we go. Kendra, do you have any tips for moving from the 0.1% retinol serum to one of the 1% retinols? I have dry, sensitive skin and really want to up my retinol, but have had dry, flaky, sensitive skin. I do have a tip, Kendra. What I would suggest doing is going for the 1% retinol booster, the safflower oleosomes that we use to help stabilize and increase tolerability of the retinol do tend to make that product, I would give it a slight edge in terms of gentleness compared with the clinical 1% retinol treatment for those people who are worried about being sensitive to 1% retinol. They both have the same type of delivery system, but the ingredients that we paired in the 1% booster, I think, make it a more gentle product. Some of that is anecdotal. That's what I experienced using the 1% booster versus the clinical 1% retinol treatment. Having said that, no question, the clinical 1% retinol treatment is the better seller of the two of those products. So perhaps try little samples of them both and see, but here's my tip, and then we'll close out the show. Take a few drops of a product like our non-fragrant, take a few drops of a product like our Moisture Renewal Oil Booster, put a few drops of that in your hand, dispense a tiny amount, like a pea-sized amount of the retinol product, mix them together, and then apply that mixture. That oil will help to buffer the retinol and slow its penetration into the skin. It would also be okay to put the retinol product on first and then immediately follow with a few drops of that oil. It does not have to be our product. It just does have to be non-fragrant, because fragrant is as you know, sensitive skin, it's a big irritation trigger. And a lot of the facial oils on the market, sadly, have one or more fragrant oils in the mix. Ours does not. You could also go to Whole Foods or another health food store and buy a single non-fragrant oil like Barrage, Evening Primrose, jojoba, any sweet almond if you don't have nut allergies. Any of those would be fine. So, all right, on that note, I'm going to wrap up the retinol discussion. Y'all can ask me questions about retinol in other shows. We're moving on to other topics, but I'll always take questions about retinol or anything else that's on your mind about skincare. I'm sorry I didn't get to everyone's questions. They really started piling up there, which is good. But yeah, I really do need to run. So I will be back next week. Let's keep 2020 the year of the skincare, year of increasing skincare knowledge, and we'll go through it together. Thanks for watching.